Hello, it's Gelly here, attempting to give a bit of a primer on Qumps. As you can see, I've heavily mangled my input display to give a better idea of like what I'm doing on my keyboard with my hands and then what the actual inputs are. I also have a mouse. I might be showing off some mouse Qumps, but we'll see. So first, let's run through all the mappings that I have and what they eventually lead to. And then I'll do some like demonstrations that you can slow down to see what a success looks like, what a failure looks like. So most important thing, it's visible. 30 FPS is my frame rate limit. This is as slow as you get without having Alt Tab tech. And we're just going to avoid talking about that. 30 FPS just requires you to hit a frame perfect input at a 1/30th of a second. You know, it's not great, but it's the best we can do. As for mappings, there are 3 keys, I think, maybe 4. There's a couple of keys that are going to be important here. So first, I have photo mode mapped to a bunch of things. Just kidding. I actually just have it mapped to Q. I only ever use Q. Darkit has mentioned a preference for having it mapped to L as well. So I have it mapped to L in case you'll use it. I personally just use Q. So that just simplifies things for me. I only ever enter photo mode using Q. Okay. As for jumping, I jump in a lot of different ways. I can jump using spacebar. I can jump using K. And I can also jump using right click. Let me put the mouse on screen here. Okay. So I actually have 3 keys. I'll explain the macro that I'm using in order to achieve that. So jump, K, right click. That's what I use for my mappings. Your results may vary depending on the methods that you employ. The most important key is the escape key. Now, this is what lets you go from being in photo mode, which is kind of obvious. I don't know why it's showing off my tab button as being broken. Interesting. I go from being in photo mode to not being in photo mode, right? This is inconvenient and extraordinarily out of the way. So I have personally remapped it to J, although that means now I have turbo. So turn that off. While I have cheats on, I also do M as my escape key. Maybe you're wondering how I'm actually mapping like 3 keys to do the same thing. According to the rules, 1-to-1 remappings are acceptable. So I'll put this script that I have up here. Not exactly excellent presentation on my part. Deeply sorry. We'll just look at the K example. I have tilde K, tilde plus K. It'll be in the description. But basically, to explain what this is doing, whenever I press K, not only does the script run the send blind space, which is to say it'll just send space without removing things. I think it won't like remove your shift presses. It'll also send the K as well, which, you know, because I have tilde on for J, that's why it turns on turbo whenever I press J. So that's why I can go from being in turbo to not being in turbo, and this still works for escape. So according to the script, I have K and Shift K mapped to space, J and Shift J mapped to Esc, and M and Shift M mapped to Esc. Now, why do I need M and Shift M? Why do I need both of those to work? Well, the problem is if I'm holding Shift, AHK will ignore inputs. So like if I was just to do K, this normally wouldn't work. And I need to be holding Shift in order to sprint through the air for a lot of Qumping sequences. So I've just made it so that K and Shift K both do jump. It has no genuine effect on the way that the operation works. It's literally just AHK is very gung-ho about saying K is not the same thing as Shift K. So that's how I handle it. There may be a better way to implement it. As far as I can tell, nobody's had any real problems with this implementation. That's what I've stuck with. So again, the keys that I'm using are space, K, right click, Esc, J, I'll press J again to not have turbo on, M for escape, and then just Q for photo mode, although I have Q and L, just because L may make sense if you want to do PMIC, in case anybody was looking for that. So actually, how does that even work? No, it's fine. So let's actually go through the mechanics of a Qump now that we're here, now that we've gotten to the point where you've mapped everything that you need to map out. So I'm going to start out by doing mouse Qumps so that I can get the mouse thing off of my display. I don't really do mouse Qumps too terribly often anymore. So the mechanics of this are use in midair, are in photo mode. You're going to press right click immediately after pressing left click. My cursor has to be all the way in the down right where it's hovering over the escape. I know you can't see this. Just imagine that my left click is hovering over the escape key. You do this. So what I'm doing here to break it down is I'm pressing escape, pressing jump the frame after, and then I'm waiting about an amount of time and then stopping at the peak of the jump, right? So left, right, Q, left, right, Q, left, right, Q, left, right, Q, left, right, Q. I'm not quite as good at this as I used to be, but yeah. Left, right, Q, left, right, Q, left, right, Q, left, right, Q. So you're sort of rolling over your left plus right to achieve that. I'm not going to talk about mouse Qumps anymore because I think they've outlived their usefulness. And so I just have them as a way, just in case I need to be doing some mouse maneuvering. I much prefer the piano method, which is you have J plus K to do your left plus right click inputs effectively. So let me do the exact same thing. I'm going to do photo mode and then JKQ, 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 JKQ. I don't want to be doing J because I have cheats on. I'm going to instead do MKQ. KQ, MKQ, MKQ. They'll both do the same thing, but the main difference is I'm not turning on and off turbo every single time. So this is what I like to do when I'm doing things that have cheats enabled, is I like to use MK. When I'm actually running, I do JK. I think it's just a matter of making my wrist hurt less. But you can slow this down to get like a better idea of how this is working. We're doing vertical Qumps to get up. So I'll actually put this on like an actionable way I would do this. I'm looking to scale this. MKQ, 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 right? I'm trying to hit Q at the peak of my jump every time. I'm not doing an excellent job, but I'm doing better than 33%, which is what you need. And then over here, and this is good enough to let me into the Hall of Shame over here. So that is what vertical Qumps look like, right? I say they're very simple, but it is just this, one frame after this, a little bit after Q. So okay. Now, if I'm trying to go forward or I'm trying to do anything in terms of direction, I have to press W. However, if I'm like in photo mode and I press W and I go out of photo mode, why does that work? So I wasn't actually expecting that to work. Can you give me a second? That can't work, can it? It doesn't usually work, right? So like if I'm like holding backwards and I Q escape, yeah, so like now my movement is done, right? So if like I'm holding the key through this, that's a problem. But if I like lift it up every time I do something like this, then I can keep my momentum going, at least to some extent. Although it seems like I could be pressing forward in the middle of photo mode. The method that I do is I press W after photo mode, or at least that's how I interpret it in my head. So let me cross this gap over here and you can get a better idea of how the method very slightly changes crossing gaps like this. So you can see not only am I doing the exact same inputs over here, but I'm also pressing W at about the same time I'm pressing K, right? Which is my space key, right? So I'm also holding shift through the entire thing because sprint picks up on that when you fix AHK to allow you to send shift inputs after it's absorbed into a hotkey, right? So I'm going forward. You can also see that I'm actually pressing photo mode a little bit later. So this is to not gain height, but it's to extend height, right? So I'm not interested about hitting the peak of the jump. I'm sort of interested at when it reaches the next part of the jump. So you start here, you go, whoop. This is when I'd stop if I'm doing a vertical clump, but whoop, this is when I care about pausing it during a purely horizontal. And then you can mix it up a little bit if you want both height and distance, right? So you could do the equivalent of vertical clumps, but also holding forward. So that's like, in my mind, a 45 degree angle. I don't know if that's accurate at all, but that's how you can get both forward and vertical movement. You can make it so that like you're changing whatever key you're pressing. So for example, if I want to get on top of this pillar and I'm over here, what I might do is something like that, or like even like that, right? I can do Mega 1. Actually, can I do Mega 1? Is this Mega? Yeah, this is Mega 1. I don't know if I can do this in third person, but I can kind of show off what movement keys I'm switching to. So now I'm switching over to there to change that direction. And then if I'm trying to maneuver into this hole over here, you do Qump forward, Qump forward, Qump forward, Qump forward, stop, right? Okay. I had to recover that, but that's fine. And you can see how like I'm trying to adjust my direction. Now I need to be going a bit left. I can just throw in inputs, and for the most part, I maintain an amount of momentum to keep her going. So hopefully this is like sufficient footage to at least sift through and be like, okay, I'm gonna frame advance here. He presses this and then he presses this a frame later. Just to like get a general better understanding. I might even learn something about how I'm doing this to like better mentally prepare myself when something goes wrong or whatever. But anyways, that's hopefully like a pretty conclusive overview of what's happening. Just like, I hope you at least get the idea of like MKQ, right? Or your JKQ, or your left click, right click Q, or escape space Q, or escape space photo mode. Basically, you do that sort of rhythm is what dictates most of how you do Qmumping. So yeah, I hope this is useful at least to get that better understanding. And if you wanted to add, your own weird, little modifiers to your Qumps, if you wanted to do down Qumps, you absolutely could. Look at that. I'm delaying it past the point where I'm still going horizontal, so I'm actually losing height. Is that any good? I don't think so, probably not. But it shows you basically you can throw in whatever movement modifiers you want to do in a Qump. And yeah, so I hope you at least pick up something out of this. I hope someone picks up something out of this. And I wish you the best of luck on your travels and using Qumps. Ta-ta. That's normally my stop recording key, right?